Hey there, everyone. It's Henry. I'm a professor of philosophy and religion and spiritual leader. Please seek professional help when getting off of chemical substances. It's important, especially if you're a heavy user, to do it very carefully. Okay, I wanted to share some of the basic hints at how you can help stop in the first few days, because I've been thinking, days 1 to 4 were a little difficult for me, and I've been looking at other YouTube videos of people who have quit alcohol, and yeah, the first few days can be a little bit difficult. I don't know if that's an actual physical dependence, the habit forming aspect of alcohol, or just because it's such an enormous decision. So I would say try to cut down. Try to use less potent forms of alcohol. So if you're drinking hard liquor, go to beer, go to light beer so you can count them more accurately. Try to cut back, count. There's that saying when people are drinking, who's counting? You definitely should count. You should always count and know how much you drink and write it down and keep track of it. That's a very good first step. Try to limit it. If you're doing 7 drinks a night, if you're doing a 6-pack every night, try to go to 5. That would not be that difficult. Go to 5, eat food along with it. So count it, limit it. Try to mix a glass of water or soda or something that is going to make you drink less without really even have to work on it. Count it, keep track of it, keep it on paper so you can see what you're doing. Try to bring it down as gradually or as dramatically as you can without harming yourself. So it's very hard if you're drinking a lot. That's why I say you should get professional help. Get food, get something to do, get some activities that you can do. Buy a new video game, buy movies, start watching a new series, start walking. So learn how to walk more, exercise more, have puzzles, have people to call, have a positive attitude about it, have material to read, have a lineup of YouTube videos. That's one of the reasons I'm making so many of these. You can watch each one. I'm trying to really put in everything I have learned over 60 years. I'm 62, so I've thought about this for a while. So try to distract. And so those would be some of the basics. Once you're down to 2 or 3, then try for your first day or 2 off of alcohol. And then you'll build up some success. And if you write that down and have a date and a chart or however you want to write it down, that will give you more confidence on this pull down so that you can try the 90 days. So if you try the 90 days, you can try it. But if you've never done it before, don't be too hard on yourself if you fail. This is difficult. But try to bring yourself down. Try to do successful points. And then don't beat yourself up. Don't be too upset with yourself, because that negativity itself will be a reason to drink more. It's like, oh, I failed. There's these negative thoughts. I'll never quit. I'm a loser. I'm addicted. If you are addicted, get some professional help. Keep trying. And those negative thoughts can become a subtle reason for, like, oh, I can drink and I'll feel better about the fact that I failed. So don't beat yourself up too much. Don't go too much into failure. Another thing to do is an easy dismissal of drinking. Forgetting to. Just say, I forgot to. Just as you are doing things, the thought comes up, and another thing is get rid of alcohol from your apartment or house. And so, oh, I'll drive to the store and buy something. Instead of that, just counter that thought with, no, I just forgot to do it. I'm lazy, I don't want to drive there. And then just do something else. So just quick dismissal thoughts can be very effective too. Instead of doing the whole series of thoughts. I need to stop drinking. I'm drinking too much. Oh, it would feel good, but no, I don't. Just forget about it and move on to something else. Just move on to something else quickly with a distraction, and just make it a small thing and just sort of, I forgot to drink today. And, or dismiss that thought. No, I'm not going to drive. And it will help get you through. I found those little dismissal thoughts very helpful. Just dismiss the whole topic. Even after weeks and weeks of not drinking, it would come up. Just dismiss it. It's not going to happen. And then you develop confidence in it. It's like, I don't think I really even need the dismissal thoughts anymore. It's become who I am right now. I'm a teetotaler. I absolutely do not drink. And I absolutely enjoy life just as much. And the social aspect, I actually am finding I enjoy bringing my full person to social situations more than my imbibing, indulging person. So years and years ago, I was a moderate drinker, and I would drink most days. And I said, I really I want to give a try of several months. And to be honest with you, it only lasted 5 days. And then I started moderately drinking again. So I felt a little bit disappointed in myself, but at the same time, those 5 days were the longest I had gone without alcohol for many years, as far as I can remember. I had done a few months before in my 30s or 40s. So yeah, I think this is something that we can get better and better at. And I think, I don't just think, I know. The rationale for not drinking has gotten stronger and stronger for me over the decades. It's become very clear to me that this is not a healthy thing. It's not a helpful thing for me. And for most people, it's just not going to help. It's not going to make me happier. And it's worth the effort to be done with it. So I noticed when I first did those 5 days a few years ago, I felt different even after 5 days. I felt more in myself. I felt more localized. I guess in the sense that when I was drinking alcohol, I was always like sort of reaching forward to that time where I could enjoy a couple of drinks and do fun things. So I was sort of like spread out more. By not drinking, I was like always within myself, within my body, within my immediate sensing of the world around me. So I felt a little different that way. I did feel a little different because it is really, I think, a major change for a lot of people who are moderate drinkers. It's going to be a big change. At 4 or 5 days, I still had cravings. I still would like to have a drink. I would still like a couple drinks. So cravings are part of it. So all the things I mentioned before are helpful in dealing with cravings. It's not just generally a physical dependence, it seems. It was sort of just psychological cravings, which is normal. I mean, if you're a light to moderate drinker and you're trying to give up this chemical substance, it has become an important part of our lives, who we are, what we do. And it does affect important parts of our brain, and we sort of have an emotional attachment to it. So there's going to be cravings. It was a big part of life for me, even just as a small part of life for me. And so I can imagine what a complete alcoholic would go through. It'd just be the pressure. Those cravings would be insane. But I think your average person in America, it would be the case that they are going to have cravings. So you have to have a plan to deal with cravings. It's natural. You can get through them, and then over a few weeks they will lessen. Now this time, as you've been with me for this 90-day purge, I noticed that from days 1 to 4 to 5. After 5 days, the cravings really went down. There was a big difference. My brain had reached a state of balance, of homeostasis. The alcohol was totally out of my system, and I was going for 2 weeks. But the cravings had greatly reduced. So if you get through those first few days, you should be golden. We've also talked about alcohol being a crutch, an emotional crutch, a social crutch, a social lubricant, sort of there's sort of a ritual of going to the bar. I mean, in a strange way, it gives you something to do, even if it's just lining up at a bar waiting to order something. You're not really talking then, you're just sort of standing there awkwardly with other people, but it's sort of something to do. So I've noticed that it is that crutch. And if you're talking, you say, oh, I'm going to get another drink. So it's sort of a get out of jail free card. It's like, oh, I can go and get another drink as something to do. And it's sort of the easy button. It makes people more verbal, more sociable. They can get over their inhibitions, their shyness, and we've talked about that. However, at the same time, I've been thinking of times when I was 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I really did not drink much at all. And since then, since 18 and on, I have had drinks on and off. I would say fairly consistently, not much. I was impressed by the fact it was heart healthy, and it felt good. But now that I know that it is not healthy and that it interferes with sleep and it interferes with the homeostasis of the brain and affects gut health and liver health and kidney health, it's a different story now that I'm more rationally aware of what is going on. But my point here is that when I was a young teenager, thankfully, I did not have alcohol. And I want to go back to that. I want that to be the normal base of who I am. Really not needing it. I remember back then I didn't have cravings for it, didn't know what it was, didn't know how it affected me. And that, I think I want to make the norm. And I think that would be true for really anyone. There's no, the same with caffeine, though I didn't have caffeine then, didn't need it, didn't want it. I would look askance at these adults who needed caffeine. I didn't need it. I got all my work done and school work done. And so yeah, that's become the norm for me. A time of life for years where I did not consume and was perfectly content, perfectly functional, didn't seem to need it at all. Here's another point about cravings. Cravings have something important to teach us. They have something important to teach you. If you have a lot of cravings in the first few days or even a few weeks, it might be, why do you have those cravings? If you're not addicted, why do you have cravings? Why do you want to have drinks? I mean, it's natural too, but it's natural to want them. But what is that saying? I really like lobster dinners. But if I said to myself, I'm not having a lobster or steak dinner for 3 weeks, I'll just put in my calendar 3 weeks, and then that Friday you can have steak. I wouldn't think about it for 3 weeks. Why do we think about alcohol? Because in some ways, I would say the alcohol is addictive, and we're feeling that. Those cravings do have something to teach us, that maybe we're not in as much control of alcohol as we think we are. We can't just turn the cravings off. So it's in some ways very instructional, very educational about yourself. If you have those cravings, it tells you something. It tells you alcohol has a little bit more control than you want it to have. And it tells you experientially what a potentially, well, not just potentially, what a dangerous substance it is. And then you can spiritually open up your compassion for people who are alcoholics, and you can imagine their cravings are very strong. So you have to have a way of dealing with these cravings. You have to let them teach you something. And distraction really can be helpful. So if you have bad cravings, if you're finding it difficult in the first few days, the first few weeks, they will normally come down very dramatically as your brain readjusts. So your cravings will come down. And that's great. So, but learn from them. Write down what it was like. If you have cravings, and be careful what you say about them. If you say something like, "Oh, I need a drink or I'll die," be careful of overstatements that aren't literally true. Instead say, "Well, I'm having a craving for alcohol because maybe I'm more of a habitual drinker than I thought I was." Or I'm having a craving for a glass of wine because that's what alcohol does, and I have to get through that. This is part of the price of alcohol, are these cravings afterwards. So it can be eye-opening, but don't say things that are so negative, because that can get your mind in a loop to which the answer is apparently getting a drink. And you don't want to. You want to be very careful about what you're saying. So write down what you're saying, what you're feeling. If you say something like, if you catastrophize with these cravings, you say, "The suffering's unbearable." Well, first of all, it is bearable. It's not that bad. It's not being tortured. There are things that are a lot worse. Try to have mantras or sayings that cravings will decrease. Cravings are natural, but this is the price I've had to pay. So learn to say positive things to negate the cravings. And then just go for a walk. Do some exercise. Find something to keep your hands busy. Knitting, puzzle making, anything, and then move on from the cravings. And then you'll find, I think, pretty clearly that wherever your cravings are, they will go down. And then you start to have permission thoughts. Or you could be having those as well, that I'm not talking about a strict sequence of you have these thoughts, then those thoughts. But permission thoughts are another part of it. It's like, give yourself permission. Well, I'm trying for 2 weeks, but I just got an invitation to the Museum of Art, and they're going to have wine there, and it's only $35. It's like you make sort of excuses. You have permission. It's like, oh, it's a rainy day. I had a really bad day. I don't have anything to do. So yeah, I'll do the 2 weeks another time. And then you sort of have these permission thoughts. So be careful of those. Write them down. And if you do start drinking, write them down. If you don't and you were successful, you came close, you were driving to the liquor store and then you turned around. What were the thoughts that made you turn around? And write it down, because that is yourself telling you what you needed to hear. And so write it down so you have it for the next day, for later on. It's very powerful when we learn how to recast, to reword the cravings. Try to put it in words. Look at David Byrne's book, Feeling Good. He talks about cognitive behavioral therapy. And the big part of that is what I've just been talking about, is change the vocabulary that you're using to describe your experience. If you say things like, "Oh, this craving's really strong, this is strong, alcohol would really help, what's wrong with it after all, can I go out with friends?" And there's always going to be a reason, but if you say it's terrible, it's horrible, that will create this storm in your mind by using such strong language, such hyperbolic language, such exaggerated language, that it will get you all emotional and sort of confuse you, and it will make you feel anxious. And once you get that anxiety, oh, there's the alcohol to help calm the anxiety. And the alcohol sort of will calm it immediately, but really not completely. You'll still feel like misgivings about giving in. So I need to focus. Look at what Dr. David Burns is saying about how to reword the words we're saying to ourselves. And that will help you get through cravings. These cravings can take the form of anticipation, reward, and many other emotions. So the anticipation can be, wow, that will be so great and such a relief. It will be a relief from anxiety. And then you can have a sense of reward. It's like, yeah, I've worked hard. I can reward myself with this. How can I do without a nice little reward? It's just a little reward. So yeah, I mean, I went through all of this, all of these little emotions, and trying to stop for an extended period of time, giving up something that I thought really was a social lubricant, something that was good for my health, my physical health, my spiritual health, my heart health, what it made me experience, sort of my body felt better. I felt like I was experiencing something new or different, and I love to experience new things, to see the world from a different perspective. And so yeah, I thought I was getting all that. So you can get these sense of anticipation. Like they say, the best drink that you ever have is when you decide in your mind, I'm going to have a drink. And then that is the most pleasurable drink, when you decide to do that, because you're letting your brain know, oh yeah, the sugar's coming down. And that first thought, that gives you permission. The first drink is the best drink, and that first drink is, I'm going to let myself drink. I'm going to have a drink. And that sets everything afire in the brain. So that tells you something about the power of the brain and what it says to itself, to you.